Hola, hola todos. My name is Sandra Milena, your vintage mommy. I am a first-time mom in my 40s, married to a Swedish Viking, raising our gringo toddler. Welcome to my channel. So when I started a couple of videos, my first videos actually, I wanted to share my multicultural family life. So Colombian heat meets the Swedish home. But then life happened and we actually started planning our move to Sweden, which is a big thing. So I got a little sidetracked with the main purpose of the channel, and I started sharing more about how to move to another country, how to move abroad to Sweden, particularly, how we apply and all of that information. But now I wanted to focus again and started sharing, our videos about a multicultural family. How does that look like? The ups and downs of having European meets South American and bumping heads, loving, but definitely tough situations. But now I know I can do both. I can talk about being a late blooming mama and our journey moving to Sweden and how life is going to be for a Latina in this cold weather. So grab your coffee, your wine, whatever you prefer, and let's talk. Today I'm spilling the tea or the breast milk on doulas. The magical birth fairies everyone says that you need for a peaceful, empowering birth. Well, for me, it was a little bit different. It was more like paying for a meditation app that doesn't really load or something like that. I ended up not having a natural birth. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's what I wanted to discuss because I did my first video about my pregnancy, and that got me thinking about to doula or not to doula. That is the question. As I explained on my previous video, when I got pregnant at 42, I was kind of told, you're a grandma to be a mom. What's wrong with you? So my experience with OBGYNs was not so nice. And I totally agree to why they are a little bit more worried when you're over 35. So I decided to have a natural birth. So, the fairy goddess style water birth, candles, essential oils, the music, the positive thoughts, the affirmations, the whole thing. So I decided to hire a doula. It's recommended. You hear it over and over when you get into this natural birth channels, and everybody kind of talks about doulas. And listen, doulas are not cheap. We're talking about thousands of dollars that you're spending for this one person who is going to be your emotional and physical support during your pregnancy and labor. So I thought, if I'm paying this much, I'm going to get like a real life Mary Poppins, of childbirth, right? Someone who's going to whisper in my ear, breathe, mommy, you're doing amazing. And somebody who's going to be there and rub my back and guide me through like contractions or pains or whatever you do when you're giving birth. That's not what I got. Not at all. So first of all, choosing your doula. To me, it felt like speed dating. Well, maybe because the place that I went to get my doula, they had like a literally speed dating type of scenario where you just listen to a lot of doulas, they're kind of like, oh, I'm a potential doula. I believe in crystals, the moon cycles. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but do you also believe in like hospitals and C-sections just in case? And they're like, oh, I don't think like that. So I was trying to connect with somebody in such a quick time. It's really not the best thing, I guess. I wanted somebody who spoke Spanish because I knew that my mom was going to be there. My mom speaks Spanish only. So I wanted somebody that could speak to her in case, because I knew that my mom was going to be like on her phone calling my sister, look at her hoo-ha, oh my God, or, moms. But I finally found one that spoke Spanish. She seemed nice, so I finally picked that one. She had good reviews. She was a younger doula, and she'll promise she'll help me through everything. But once you make the contract, you kind of find out that, okay, you have me for this many hours. This is for how many hours you've paid. Is not really, what do you need? You can reach me anytime. We can meet, we can talk. They say that you can, but it's kind of specific. Like, okay, this 2 meetings of 1 hour before birth, and then during the birth, I'll come or meet you at the birthing place or at the hospital if you have to. So it was like, okay, the whole interview process where you're like, oh, I'm going to be there for you. But I thought, okay, I'm in good hands. She knows what she's doing. Let's give it a try. Fast forward to the last week of my pregnancy, when I found out that my baby was still not turned. And I went to a lady who tried to turn him. Very painful. Ugh. If you want me to do a video on that, I think I have pictures still. I can do that. But that was not fun. So I think that's when I thought my doula was going to show up and be like, oh my God, no worries. Baby's turned the other way. Feet first. I got this. I can tell you. I called her and I told her, because I wanted to inform her that she's going to have to go to a hospital instead of the birthing center. So she was like, okay, what are you going to do? Do you want to turn the baby or do you want to? So I'm like, okay, I've already done that. She gave me a couple of techniques of putting something hot on your pinky and, standing on your head. Like, I tried everything with this one, and he was like, nope, I am very comfortable. I'm okay. So yeah. That last week, well, when I was picking hospitals, she did not really offer any advice or any help. I finally arranged for a C-section. So I called her and I said, tomorrow I have to be in the hospital at 6 a.m. She said, okay, I'll meet you there. I got to the hospital and they're like, this is your doula. She can come in with you to the room. My mom had to stay in the waiting room. So it was my doula and my husband in my room. And she was just sitting there, kind of like, no guidance, nothing like, let's breathe together or nothing really, just sitting there quietly. And my husband, God bless his heart, he's a man and not that much experience. So I was getting ready, I was nervous. Never had a C-section, never had a baby before. So, and she knew that I was a first-time mom. I was like, girl, I paid you to talk to me, to get me off the edge, not to like just stand there. Yeah, no words of encouragement, just quietly observing, like she was collecting data for a documentary or something, called Birth, the Awkward Experience. And at that point, I honestly wish I would have let my mom in, because, she would have done something. She would have prayed, or she would have called my whole family and be on video or whatever, but she would have done something, she would have like had me being like, Mom, don't do that, and get my head off of, I'm about to get opened up and a baby is gonna come out. Finally, I got all the stuff done, they're taking me to the operating room or whatever it is to put the epidural, put me in a wheelchair. And that's when I realized that instead of that magical experience I paid for, I got a very expensive witness to like my preparation. After the birth, she had recommended to get pills from my placenta. So I arranged with the hospital to give her the placenta, and she went and she got me pills done in a solution thingy that I can make a video about it. I did take a couple of pills. I read somewhere that it could affect your breast milk, so I stopped taking them. I didn't really finish them, and that was another expense that I don't know if I would do it again, but that was that. That was my whole doula experience. Nothing magical, nothing like Mary Poppins comes flying down to tell me, push, mama, push. No, nothing like that. To doula or not to doula? So I think the pros, doulas can be a great emotional support if you find the right one for you. If you take the time to interview them, maybe take a little bit more time reviewing the reviews or reading and talking to maybe somebody who they've helped before. I think I will do that. They can advocate for you, especially in hospitals. I advocated for myself because, like I said, she was there. She didn't talk to the nurses, but I told them, like, I don't want vaccines. How long can you hold until cord clipping? They actually did a lot of stuff. It was a very good hospital for myself, I think, because they actually listened to me, listened to what I was going to do in the natural birth and what they can accommodate. So I advocated for myself. I said, this is what I want, and what can you do as a hospital? So I think that a doula can do that for you if you talk to her and you tell her, when it comes to a hospital, this is what I want. And I guess they can tell you to stay calm and informed. So, those are some of the pros. You'll hire somebody who has experience in birth if you think you need it. The cons, I think they're expensive. Mine was about $1,500, which I could have spent that money on something a lot better. Especially if you don't click, especially if you don't find that one person that you like. Some are too hands off, so you need to ask them, I guess. Again, I should have done this. I should have asked her, like, are you going to be there with me, like massaging my back or my feet or whatever, or you're gonna be very like chill, girl? Another con is if your birth plan changes, they might not be prepared. They might not be like, okay, this is what we do at a hospital. So that's another thing that you need to ask them. And I think nothing replaces a family member, your mom, or it might not be your mom, but somebody close to you, somebody who you'll be comfortable, or, if your hoo-ha is out there and you need to, be in uncomfortable positions or not very flattering sounds coming out of you. But I think that I will, if I had to do it all over again, that's what I will do. I'll tell my mom, like, this is how I want things done. She's not going to listen, but I will try to do that, and maybe have my husband prepare him a little bit more to what I want. Do you have a doula story? Tell me in the comments, was it amazing? Was it awkward? Did they help, or were they just another guest at your birth party? If you're new here, welcome to my channel. This is Vintage Mommy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Maybe share with another mama who wants to talk about weird things. And thank you. Ciao, ciao. Besitos.